and a warm Waffle welcome to this, the 4th series of the 11 o'clock Waffle. After our self-indulgent 49th and 50th episodes, we are back to basics as we once again explore the news to find the weird and the wacky, and of course, all things geek. Coming up this year will be another 12 episodes for our guests to compete for a place in this year's final, and I can exclusively reveal now that there will only be 3 slots available. So, who today shall be starting their quest to be crowned Waffle Champion 2015? First up, our regular series opening guest and one of the greatest pun artists in the show's history. When asked if her husband was a James Bond character, which character would he be, his wife replied without hesitation, Jaws. Yes, the tall, dark, menacing and silent Jaws. Of course, that's totally one way to sum up Christopher J. Stanley.
The pinky and the brain.
It's time to take down Jenny. The best never got the final of Series 3, and it's not the Waffle without me. Da 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 da. Yeah.
Another rap. Are you trying to become the series rap champion?
Wigmore's got nothing on me.
And welcome back to the show, Chris. It's another year to claim for the title.
Yeah, I kind of got close last time, a little bit, till I came 4th. But you know,
Absolutely.
I blame the lesbians.
No 4th place up for grabs this year. It's top 3
No, I
or
know.
nothing.
Yeah, it's improvement or out.
Next, our Series 2 champion, and now the shortest ever woman ever to win the Waffle Championship. Like a wounded predator, other contenders to the crown best be on their guard as the Queen of Smack Talk returns. If she were a Bond girl, she'd be Xenia on a top. Lords and ladies, it's Jennifer Roberts.
Hello gentlemen, hello Mac.
Welcome back. Are you eager to reclaim your title?
As always, I think that goes without saying at this point. Lost pretty hard last time.
On a technicality, wasn't it, missing out on the final?
And Courtney was with me.
That's true.
She was pulling me back.
Now, I think I've worked out Jenny's weakness. Carl is your good luck charm.
Excellent. And finally, one of our greatest ever guests returns, wondering if this is to be his year. Just one solitary appearance last year led many to believe that he had given up on his chances of winning the title. Arguably, the Stephen Gerrard of the Waffle. Please welcome back, Mr. James Joseph Millar.
I have returned. I've been biding my time, and my time is now.
Any new haircuts this year? Because last year the long locks went.
Yeah, it's sort of a shaggy in between at the moment.
As in
Thanks, man.
Scooby-Doo?
Raggy.
So like some sort of dog type creature, perhaps.
I went straight for the innuendo when he said that. Chris is much more innocent with it.
Well, the gang's all here, so let's begin. Question 1. And a German primary school teacher is due to give birth to quadruplets. Oh, and she's 65. But what other stories have you of people finding parenthood in their later years? And we'll start with James.
Yeah, mine's quite a nice one actually. It's just quite a personal family story. My mum's cousin had a baby she wasn't expecting. She's 45, so nothing funny or overly spectacular or anything. It's just really nice, I thought.
Aww, that's a nice start to the show. Okay, Jenny.
I learned that Charlie Chaplin became a father at the age of 73.
Wow.
He married an 18-year-old when he was in his 50s, which was a massive scandal, very controversial. They stayed married until he died at the age of 88. They had 8 children together, and the last one was when he was 73. And he decided that was kind of enough for now.
Blimey. And all without saying a word.
Very prolific man.
Really good film, actually. Chaplin with Downey Jr. as Chaplin. Worth checking out. Okay.
I prefer Buster Keaton.
He can search by being quiet for sexy time. That's my theory.
Silent and brooding with a moustache. Okay, Chris. Elderly parents.
I can't help but notice that there are a lot of examples in the Bible of someone like, oh, I'm advanced in years, and there's no way I can have a kid. Oh, look, I've had a kid. To the point where you start to wonder whether or not it's a miracle, or whether it's just something that just happens every now and then. But I think my favourite is probably Zechariah. This is right at the start of the New Testament. He gets told by an angel that he's gonna, his wife is gonna have a kid, and he basically doesn't believe the angel. And it's one of the very few examples, I think, where I've seen an angel sort of get, like, ticked off with someone. And the angel just kind of goes, right, you don't believe me? Fine. You're not going to be able to speak. You're not going to be able to speak until the kid is born. And he just comes out the temple and he can't say anything. So, yeah, don't mess with angels, man.
This is like Chaplin again.
Yeah, they give you good news. You don't believe them. You can't talk. Yeah.
There is definitely a connection there between silence and virility.
Yeah, clearly.
I think we're onto something.
All right, yeah.
That's probably why I don't say very much.
To the Google mobile.
Weren't people in the Bible hundreds of years old?
Everyone in the Bible was hundreds of years old.
Methuselah is, I think he's 980-something years old.
Yeah.
That's pretty darn old, yeah.
Question 2. Lewis Hamilton is apparently in trouble for spraying champagne into a hostess's face after winning the Chinese Grand Prix. But who would I guess gladly take the chance to spray champagne into the face of? Chris?
I think, in a fit of irony, the people who work at these things in Sweden, they're called system gates. Sweden has got very strict on its alcohol policy. When I was over there, you had to go into these places, and they're kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like being back in the Cold War, sort of Berlin Wall sort of scenario. You're only allowed 2 bottles, and you have to have your passport, and they're very stringent. You sort of go and you're like, what do you want? I just want some alcohol. It's over there, 2 bottles. So I think, spraying champagne into their face would be good. Yeah. And if not them, Katie Hopkins, because she annoys me a lot. Like saying things like, oh, you shouldn't name your children after geographical places. That's a stupid thing. Yes, but Katie, one of your kids is called India. Oh no, that's different. How is that different?
She said it wasn't a geographical place.
What is it then?
Theoretical
name of her local takeaway?
She did say that she would leave the country if Ed Miliband gets in, so...
Vote Labour.
Yeah. What greater
woman.
Incentive do you need?
Labour don't need any more incentive than that. Yeah. That's all Ed Miliband has going for him.
One policy.
Yeah. His Careless Whisper video isn't quite doing what it should be. It's very odd.
I'll have to check that out. James, who would you attack with champagne?
I would argue no one, because I'm presuming this is some good quality champagne, and why waste it on someone's face when I can be drinking it? So I suppose if I had to spray anybody, it'd be myself.
Nice.
Fair
Waste
enough.
not, one not.
And Jenny, who in the world would you be spraying champagne on?
I'm with James. I don't think this sounds like a bad thing. That's just how I want to start my day, every day. Instead of a shower, just spray champagne in my own face. It sounds refreshing.
Yeah. Smell like, filthy rich.
Yeah.
That day on a crisp note.
There are people who are allergic to champagne, so maybe occasionally spray them if I'm feeling a bit ornery, but yeah.
Oh, that'd be a terrible thing. You're allergic to champagne.
I know. Stephen Fry's.
Ah, okay.
So don't spray Stephen Fry with champagne.
Question 3 now. A picture book about 2 male penguins raising a baby penguin has again topped the list of most complaints from library users, proving that some people really do need to learn the meaning of perspective. But what other works of literature have also caused outrage? Jenny?
I think there are a lot of stories about books like the ones with the penguins where the outrage is really silly and really overblown. But one I agree with is the Protect and Survive leaflets that came out in 1980 when everybody was very afraid of nuclear war, and rightly so, that they kind of gave super helpful suggestions about what to do if there was nuclear fallout, if there was nuclear war, and included stuff like if you're outside and a bomb goes off, just throw yourself on the ground and, until the heat wave has passed.
Great advice.
And arrange a fallout room in your house and sort of lean a mattress or a piece of wood against one of the walls so you can hide under there and pile up with sandbags. And this did cause a lot of kind of great parodies, especially in the young ones, where the character Neil is painting himself white to deflect the blast and reading the Protect and Survive guides. And the animator and comic book artist Raymond Briggs, who did The Snowman most famously, he did an amazing graphic novel and film called When the Wind Blows, about a lovely old British couple who find themselves in this situation and religiously follow the Protect and Survive leaflets, because he found it totally ridiculous. And that was the kind of very productive satirical outrage that was produced by these ridiculous leaflets that were released by the government.
Wow, that's incredibly interesting.
I love stuff like that.
Those.
I love nuclear war. I find it really interesting. I love When the Wind Blows. I love the film Threads, but never watch both in the same day because you will kill yourself. It's so depressing.
I was lucky enough to be on a former Cold War submarine, and in New York, and it was called the USS Growler. They have no idea why it was named after fish, but why they called it the Growler, because it wasn't like, it had diesel. I was like, oh, is it because it's diesel engines and the noise they make? And they're like, no, they just named it after fish for some reason. But yeah, I was lucky enough to be on there, and you've got the American tour guide, and then whilst I was talking to him about the history of the sun, somebody from Russia came in, and then they were swapping stories about the propaganda from both sides, and the propaganda
That's amazing.
The propaganda in America was that Russia was going to put its communist manifesto and take over the world and make everyone communists. And in Russia, the propaganda was America's going to push capitalism around the world and take over with that. And it was the exact same propaganda, just with the word communism and capitalism swapped around.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So that was really...
Well, it's not incredible, it's very believable, but very interesting.
Chris?
I've gone with Lady Chatterley's Lover by D.H. Lawrence. When it first came out, it got heavily censored for a good 20, 30 years, and eventually Penguin Books decided to publish it completely uncensored, and it actually was the subject of a trial. It got that serious. So that raged on for a bit, and eventually it was thrown out, and Penguin Books were allowed to keep it published. The prosecution kind of got ridiculed for the fact, is this the sort of book you would read to your wives and servants? It's a bit behind the times, but it wasn't just England. It was banned in Australia and Canada. It caused a ruckus in India and Japan. I think my favourite reaction, though, was a senator in the States who said that it is written by a man with a diseased mind and a soul so black that he would obscure even the darkness of hell. And that's
it's my aspiration to be described in that way.
Yeah.
I love that. That's brilliant.
So pretty strong views. Yeah.
Bonus point on offer to anybody who knows which former Game of Thrones star played the groundskeeper in an adaptation.
I want to say Sean Bean.
Points to Chris. Okay, James, what's your answer?
I went for a book that caused me personal outrage in that it was terrible and should never have been published, but it did because the author's parents owned the publishing house, Aragon, which to me was just a pile of wasted paper.
I have friends who are obsessed with that.
I was waiting for James to say Twilight.
I was thinking that.
Why did it offend you so much?
To me, it was just rehashed, unoriginal bollocks, and he literally only got it published because his parents literally owned the publishing house that he published it through.
One of my friends was reading it on the coach and fell asleep reading it, and I tried reading it, and it did. Yeah, it does seem to copy a lot of other things.
It's Star Wars set in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
My friend Liz adores those books, and we went to see the film with her, and she got so angry at the film because it deviated so much from the book. We had to restrain her. She was about to throw her shoe at the screen.
Yeah, the sad thing is the film didn't deviate that much from the book. If you ask me, it was there wasn't a lot.
Okay, let's have the scores at the end of the first round. On 10, it's James.
Yeah.
And narrowly ahead, tied on 12, it's Chris and Jenny.
Hey, interesting.
Okay, we're going to bring a new feature in now on the show where we do the top 3. So we're going to do the top movie, top book, and top song. Single, isn't it? Top single from this week, just so that people are a little bit more informed about what's going on in the world. Top of the cinema charts, it's Fast and the Furious 7. Top of the singles charts, it's Hold My Hand by Jess Glynn. Has anyone ever heard of that?
Never.
I've heard of her.
Yeah, she did Gone Girl, didn't she?
No, that's the song. It's not the book.
Okay, no, I wasn't paying attention.
And The best-selling book, according to Amazon this week, is Eat, Nourish, Glow. 10 Easy Steps for Losing Weight, Looking Younger and Feeling Healthier.
Oh, why?
Absolute rubbish.
Gah.
Question 4 now. Former footballer Dion Dublin has made his debut as host on Homes Under the Hammer. A rather unusual and unpredictable move from the former Aston Villa striker, and so following his footsteps, let's have other television shows that ex-sports stars could appear on. James?
I've gone for another ex-footballer, and I know he's been in stuff before, but I'd love to see Vinnie Jones host Countdown.
Yeah.
I've just got images of the countdown at the end of a round come in, and then as it hits that boom, that gong bit at the end, he just turns his head really quickly and looks angrily at the camera. I think that'd just be brilliant.
But he would be even more down-putting than that guy from The Apprentices on it at the minute.
Nick
He'd be like,
Taylor.
yeah.
Brilliant.
He'd be, oh, you only got a 5, you toilet.
That's rubbish!
Mm.
I'd pay to see that.
Jenny, sports people for television shows.
I don't know. I think with sports stars, stereotypically, with a few exceptions, they're not very charismatic. They're not very creative. I don't even like seeing them interviewed, to be honest. It's just boring. So I think if they're going to be on any kind of television or film, it has to be something that shows off their athleticism, a kind of stuntsman role. Like, there's an actor, Misha Collins, who has a really flexible, weird spine. So he was on Nip Tuck as a character who could perform fellatio on himself. And because he had this amazing thing that he could really do with his body. And I think that's the kind of thing sports stars should do if they've got to be on a television show hosting or acting or whatever. Focus on the body. That's what they're there for.
Okay, let's go to Chris.
I was kind of thinking, like, you should just have the tough, no-nonsense ones on a load of soaps and sort all the drama queens out. So I think Mick McCarthy on Emmerdale just starting a massive bar fight.
He would work as well, because he is from Yorkshire.
Yeah.
Even
so
though
it
he-
works. Yeah, it would fit his character. He could be like the farmer guy. I was also thinking Vinnie Jones on EastEnders. But I've also got an idea of, like, Poetry Corner or, like, some sort of philosopher's thing with Eric Cantona. Just because of the whole seagull thing that he did.
Yes.
And he does do quite a lot of TV and film, so I reckon it could work. You know, just this, like, Eric Cantona with a bunch of relaxation tapes or something like that.
The seagulls follow the trawler.
Yeah, you know, he's got something about him. I think that could work.
Okay, question 5. The apparently unfilmable book series, The Dark Tower, may finally be making its way to the big and little screen if rumours coming out of Sony are to be believed. A complex mix of movies and television series is seen as the best way forward to showcase Stephen King's epic series. But what other examples are there of the unfilmable which was actually filmed? James?
I've gone with Serenity, the film that followed Firefly, because it's a cancelled show. When does that ever happen? You get a cancelled show turned into a feature-length film. They said it was never going to happen, and it did.
Good answer. Chris, what have you got?
I think, like, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I think a lot of people seem to think it would be too complicated to be done well, that it wouldn't really stay true to the books, but it managed to do both of that. And I think particularly with the extended scenes in, it does very well. And it's one of the few examples of a trilogy as well working out, because the number of sequels and trilogies that just fallen by the wayside is ridiculous. So, especially when you think of the movies like The Matrix.
Yeah.
So that was really impressive. And it also, like, in contrast to The Hobbit, which you would think would be a much easier book to make into a film. It's short, concise, and no, they just stretch it out horribly. And I've only seen one part of The Hobbit, the second bit, and even that, like, it was kind of enjoyable, but you come out and then you just think, wait, why was Legolas there? And what was the barrel roll thing about? And why was there a stupid love triangle? And not even Stephen Fry could save it. I also think, though, like, I know Jurassic Park, they actually had a lot of trouble filming it because they had a lot of difficulty working out how they were going to actually use the dinosaurs. They were first thinking of stop motion, and then they were thinking of, like, using lots of like large animatronics, and that wasn't working either because of the weather conditions were so bad. And they eventually actually went with CGI, and it's one of the first films to ever use CGI, and it uses it brilliantly.
It still holds up today, though. That's the
It really
brilliant
does.
of
Yeah,
it.
you can still watch it now, but it was so complicated at the time. I think they were sort of worried they weren't going to be able to do it, and CGI was seen as a massive gamble, but it worked out brilliantly.
Okay, and Jenny, the unfilmable which was filmed.
As soon as you gave me this question, I immediately thought of Stanley Kubrick's 1962 film based on Nabokov's controversial novel Lolita, because the tagline is, how did they ever make a movie of Lolita? And the answer to this question is not very well. This makes me really, really angry because they hired a 14-year-old actress, but they hired her because she looked older. And the whole thing is just extremely uncomfortable and unsettling because the novel, as we all know, is told from the point of view of this wretched, vain, unreliable narrator who kidnaps and rapes his adolescent stepdaughter. And he is made a lot more likeable in the film, a lot more sympathetic for some reason. He's played by James Mason, and you don't get to see any of Lolita's suffering. So it's kind of made a lot more romantic. And I don't really see how... And this was all done because of censorship. So because of censorship, it was actually made a lot more offensive. Also, Nabokov's novel is so poetic. I don't really see how you can convey that through film. And furthermore, this answer is dedicated to Carla Smith.
Oh, pennies just dropped. James is just lost at this point.
Very much so.
Can't believe nobody went with Train Spotting.
No, it didn't really come to mind.
No, I've never read the book, unfortunately.
Oh,
I
book's
bet-
fantastic. The film's brilliant too.
I bet anyone who watched that film, before reading the book, would be like, oh, that seemed quite nice. I'll read the book. And they'd be like, oh no. This isn't nice at all.
I've just started reading the book of Gone Girl. I've seen the film. I don't know if any of you guys have.
No, I really want to read the book. I don't know anything about it, but I've heard great things.
Yeah, it's good so far.
Still surprised that Ben Affleck can act.
I enjoy Ben Affleck. I think he gets a bad rap.
I think he's brilliant.
Yeah.
He was getting a Dogma, actually. Dogma.
New trailer for Batman vs
I love
Superman
that.
comes out on Monday.
That film is going to be terrible. I don't care who's in it. It's going to be god awful.
Let's move on to question 6. Game of Thrones is back. The show that everyone talks about. Even episodes yet to come are talked about. The show focuses on the battle to gain control of the Iron Throne, and with election fever, is that a thing starting to rumble away over here? Let's have politicians as characters from the show. We'll start with Chris.
I've got quite a few here. George Osborne as Joffrey, because I want to slap both of them. I think Nick Clegg as Ned Stark, as he's kind of doomed from the start and also represents Sheffield, just like Sean Bean. The Liberal Democrats representing the rest of the Starks. May the 7th is probably going to be a bit like the Red Wedding for them. Yeah. John Burko as Tyrion Lannister, because he's quite clever and has good personality and is also extremely short. Eric Pickles also possibly as Hodor, depending on your point of view. I would quite happily watch a scene of John Burko slapping George Osborne like Tyrion slaps Joffrey. That would please me.
That's a good start. Jenny.
I love Game of Thrones. I kind of wish it was... Well, I don't wish it was a little bit more like real life, but I did once read an issue of Tatler, and it wasn't as much like Game of Thrones as I hoped it was. I think Vladimir Putin has to be in there because he does take his shirt off a lot, which is very Game of Thrones. I think maybe Stannis Baratheon, that kind of very cold, distant outsider.
Yes,
and I know he's
actually.
he's not technically a politician at all, but I think Russell Brand has this Oberyn Martell about him.
Yeah.
He's trying to change things up.
Yeah, I'd happily see his head squished by a man's giant hands.
I love Russell Brand. I get so depressed I can't get news anymore unless it's filtered through Russell Brand or Charlie Brooker.
Or Jon Stewart. He's awesome.
And James, what have you got?
David Cameron as Tywin Lannister, because he's kind of on the rich side. He wants to be in charge, and I would quite happily see him shot repeatedly with a crossbow. I've got Nick Clegg as Varys, because he talks a talk, but he literally has no balls. Ed Miliband is Hodor, because he's a bit vacant. there's nothing in the head. And just because he's so cool, Hammer is Jon Snow, because he's the one nobody wants to die.
See, I had Hillary Clinton as Daenerys
Why?
because she's out there. She's trying to become the top dog, but there's all these obstacles in her way.
I really couldn't imagine any sort of female politicians with dragons. That was the thing.
I don't know, but if you think Hillary Clinton as Daenerys and then Bill Clinton as her dragon Drogo, the one that's completely uncontrollable and just goes off and does what he wants.
Yes, that works.
Should probably give you some points, James. I mean, we could be here all day, couldn't we, doing politicians as Game of Thrones characters? Maybe we'll put it on the Twitter feed, see if we can get any responses there.
Sarah Palin as Cersei Lannister.
Wouldn't Sarah Palin be Melisandre?
No, I'd definitely say she's more Cersei Lannister, because she probably is sleeping with her own brother if she's got one.
As long as she gets killed off, I don't care.
You Cersei, or I mean, it's a bit strong, Chris.
Sarah Palin. Oh, I've been to Ireland. No, your plane refueled there. That is not the same thing.
She's trying to be Catelyn Stark, the kind of family person, the caring, traditional one.
I know about Russia because I could see it from my house. No.
God bless Tina Fey.
Yes.
Definitely. Okay, let's have the scores now. At the back on 21 points, it's James.
Still.
23 points, it's Jenny. Just ahead on 25, it's Chris.
Ooh. It's still all to play for.
Question 7 now. Daredevil has begun on Netflix. The show focuses on a blind lawyer with heightened senses who becomes the vigilante Daredevil. Let's have then other inspirational stories about people who suffer blindness. And we'll start with James.
I think this was probably quite obvious, but Louis Braille. I think that's pretty inspirational.
Definitely.
From one blind person comes a language for blind people.
Good answer, James. At a good time, Chris.
I think Stevie Wonder, because he's managed to record more than 30 US top hits. He's received 25 Grammy Awards, and he sold over 100 million albums and singles. He's in the top 60 best-selling music artists. I'm not sure whether that sort of inspires me. It's just like, look, a guy who has no sight can do this. Or whether it depresses me. It's like, man, you know, I'm doing so much worse than that blind guy. I can never match up to him, despite the fact that I've got full vision.
Didn't he come onto an award ceremony where he was getting like a lifetime recognition of that, and he said, "Well, I've just been playing a joke on you for the last 30 years or something." He definitely made a joke that he'd been putting it on to get success.
Okay. I do quite like, what was it, Stevie Wonder Seeks Band. Oh no, hang on, you've been here all along. I think you should, another person who just deserves a mention, he's not living, but Homer managed to write the Iliad and the Odyssey, despite the fact that he was blind from birth.
Oh gosh.
I think that's pretty damn impressive.
Especially the Iliad.
I struggled to write my dissertation, yeah. And I had a laptop, you know.
Okay, Jenny.
I went with John Newton. He's most famous for writing the song Amazing Grace, which has that famous lyric about being blind and then be able to see. He went blind later on in life, so for him it was kind of the other way around. But he was a very inspirational man. He was a slaver, but he became an abolitionist. And he sort of felt a lot of sympathy for the slaves, and he was incredibly ashamed of his sort of past life as a slaver. And he wrote abolitionist pamphlets about how slaves should be freed, and I think there were a lot of Christian slavers at the time, but he was the one to actually turn around and say, I can't do this according to my principles.
That's a strong answer there. Interesting. Chris, looking over your shoulder nervously yet?
Not just yet.
Well, let's move on to question 8. A Polish prince has challenged UKIP leader Nigel Farage to a duel in Hyde Park. How much do we want this to actually happen?
I completely, totally want it to happen.
It's got to be to the death.
I just imagine people sitting around with picnics, big old boxes of popcorn.
Well, in the unlikely event this actually takes place, what should be their weapons of choice? Chris.
Right. If it's with actual weapons, I think they should have to fight on pogo sticks with lances and see who can knock each other off first. I think that could be a lot of fun. If it's without weapons, I think they should have a rap battle. It'd be just like epic rap battles of history. I think that could be a lot of fun. And it has to be in Polish, because then there's no way that Nigel Farage can win.
Sounds fair.
Yeah.
Okay, Jenny.
Meteor hammers.
Meteor-
So that ancient Chinese weapon that's a kind of morning star on a chain. It was famously used by Go-Go in Kill Bill.
Right.
And because I think it's so deadly, but would also be hilarious to see them both trying to kill each other with these extremely unwieldy weapons.
Oh, that is interesting. Tarantino, get on that.
Both of them in the jumpsuits and everything. Schoolgirl uniforms.
Okay, and James, what have you got?
I'd really love to see him play a tennis match with a live grenade. and failing that, if it's got to be non-lethal, just get LL Cool J up in there and they can have a lip-sync battle.
Oh, that would be genius.
And again in Polish.
I'd prefer the tennis match.
What an answer right at the death then. So, that brings us to the end of the questions and we come to our final round. In our final round, our guests will present a news headline followed by a 20-second summary of the story. The story will either be true and something for the past week's news or entirely fictional. Then it'll be up to the other guests to decide whether the story is in fact or fiction. Bonus points are awarded to the story I think is the most interesting, and we'll play it out from there. So, in a twist of events, Jenny, as you are at the back, you get to decide the running order on this show.
I'll go first, and then James, and then Chris, I think.
Okay. So, Jenny, what is your headline?
Archaeologists unearth 18th century dildo.
Okay, and the story?
Some Polish archaeologists, which is hard to say, found a sex toy from the kind of 1800s. It's apparently really high quality leather, and it's filled with bristles and has a wooden tip. And they're very excited about it.
Okay, nobody's giggling there. This is a good start. James, what is your headline and story?
My headline is Plane crashes bus, and the story is that an amateur model aeroplane builder lost control of his creation, which caused a passing bus to crash into a sporting goods store.
Okay, and Chris.
Man accidentally shoots mother-in-law after bullet bounces off armadillo.
Okay, and the story?
Apparently, Larry McElroy fired his pistol at the animal in Georgia. It killed the armadillo, but the bullet ricocheted off its armour, hit a fence, went through the back door of Carol Johnson's caravan, and apparently struck her in the back. But she's expected to make a good recovery, according to the story.
Okay, so to recap for the listeners, we have Jenny's, well, not Jenny's, but Jenny's story about an 18th century dildo. James's tale of a model plane crashing a bus, and Chris's story of, and this wasn't you shooting your mother-in-law, was it? It was somebody else.
Yeah, this is in America.
Okay, so James, what are you thinking here?
I'm thinking the dildo is true, the armadillo is false.
Okay, Jenny, what about you?
I'm going to say they're both false.
Okay, and Chris?
I'm going to say Jenny's is true. I think James's is false.
Okay, so it's could be a interesting final round now. So, Jenny, is it true or false, this story of the leather dildo with bristles?
It is true.
Yeah.
So, Chris and James splitting the points there. James, the story of the plane crashing into the bus.
It's false.
Okay, and last of all, so the man, did a man actually shoot his mother-in-law?
He actually did. You're
Oh my
kicking
God.
yourselves, yeah.
What?
Larry
That sounds so
McElroy,
untrue.
54, checked the metro, Lee County, Georgia, apparently. And apparently McElroy was about 100 yards away from the home, so that is one heck of a ricochet. The poor armadillo, what did it do?
He probably just wanted something to eat.
Probably, but they're not exactly, vicious.
No, not it, him.
Yeah.
Okay, well that is a massive twist there, right at the end of the true or false round. So let's go to the final scores to see how big that is. On 33 points and tied, it's Jenny and James. But thanks to that bizarre twist right at the end, Chris is our runaway winner with 39 points.
Whoa!
Well played.
Thank you, armadillos. Rest in peace.
You didn't die in vain.
You know. I was going to go, if not for that one, I did see, but I think people would probably have already picked up on it. Apparently there is a Japanese game show where men get different strokes, as it were, whilst trying to sing karaoke.
What?
Yeah, and they have to try and focus. The idea being the more that they stand to attention, the less they're able to focus on the song. So, yeah, only Japan.
Mac, is that what we're playing at your party in May? You did say you get the SingStar out.
There is SingStar, yeah. We'll have to think about it.
I sent Vita, Inker and Sophie.
That's it for this week's show. We are back next week. We're going to have another cracking lineup and hopefully another equally as exciting set of questions. Thank you to my guests this week, Jennifer Roberts, James Millar, and this week's winner, Christopher J. Stanley.
Yeah.
We'll be back next week. Thank you very much and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Armadillos.